Hi, Peggy.
How you doing?
All right, and you?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I would have called if I had known that you had surgery.
Sorry again?
I would have called if I had known you had surgery.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah,
This is my my fourth.
right.
So, I mean, I still have blurry eyesight in the mornings, but the doctor told me that takes like a couple of weeks.
Uh-huh.
So
So
we'll see.
but after that, it wears off, it clears up.
Yeah, it's because I'm getting so many drops in my eyes.
Uh-huh.
Maybe that's the reason. I don't know.
You're lucky you have an in-house nurse
Yeah.
who's experienced in that
Yeah,
also.
because of the drops.
Yeah. I saw you from afar at Shul, but then
Yeah,
I didn't get.
I think what was worse, I got, I don't know, I was laying wrong on, they put you in a chair that becomes a bed.
Uh-huh.
And maybe I got a cold or twisted, but my waist has been killing me for 3 days already.
Yeah, that's what Anna said. She said you never have backache and you have backache.
Yeah.
Oh, and just from the operation that you have the backache? From the time that you had the operation? Yeah,
Since the operation, yes.
wow.
So it probably, I don't know if I twisted during the operation or I was laying in a very, I don't know, I think I was laying flat, but who knows?
Mm-hmm.
When you're out, you're out.
No, but
Yeah.
did you had local or general?
I have sedation, whatever it's called, but I was out,
Oh, you were out, yeah.
completely out, yes.
But maybe
I
it's
mean,
from the sedation.
yes.
Maybe it's from the
And
sedation.
they inject in your vein. Yeah, I don't
Right.
know.
Yeah.
They,
Well, if it
what
doesn't go away, then you have to call the doctor back.
So what are you gonna do with my waist? He's an eye doctor.
No,
He's
but
gonna
maybe
tell
it's
me
from
go to a waist doctor.
go to a waste. You know, we're laughing, but everything's so specialized nowadays that that's how it is.
Seems to what?
Everything's
Yeah,
so specialized nowadays.
that's true.
Yeah. Tell me, Avi Reichman every week announces that the Daf Yomi is at 7, but our Shir is at 7.
I know. You listen to my messages, not to hear what he
Right.
says.
Okay, sounds good.
Because nobody, I should tell him that, but Ernie's also been changing things.
Right.
He also had surgery this week.
Hi,
Hi,
Right.
Ernie. How are you?
Hi, Ernie.
Ernie's resting. How you
Ernie, how are you?
I'm better, thank God. Thank God, every day better.
Okay.
Ernie, how you feeling?
You want this?
I'm feeling better. Feeling better.
Hi,
thank-
Ernie. How are you?
Hi, Bernie. I'm better.
How you
Ernie.
doing? How you feeling?
I'm
Hello.
doing better.
Refuah Shalema, how you doing?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I think I'm the only one who doesn't know. Was Ernie sick?
Oh,
No, I just had a procedure, a medical procedure this week, and I'm recovering from
Sorry.
it.
Okay, Refuah Shlema Bekaro.
Thank
I
you.
mean, thank you.
How's the desert?
The desert's great. It was good
Oh, you're
weather.
in the desert?
Yeah, we're at Harold and Magda's house, the Shabbos.
Nice.
Yeah, it's beautiful here. Chabad had a nice minyan. George Mann had a few people at his home, so that we have a minyan of the LA people.
Really? Wow,
Yeah.
that's funny.
They had 3 couples. Yeah. Sydney's here with Sydney and Marcia here. Sure.
Wow, okay.
Nice.
Can I ask Mario, please, to send me a copy of this year? Because I'm only going to be here for a few minutes before I go, but I wanted to start out until we go out tonight.
Air or water filter?
Thank you. Oh, Mario's on the phone.
The refrigerators don't take air filters.
What chapter are we on here?
How are you, Steve?
Good. What chapter are we on?
Okay.
We are on Perikav Bays,
Fine.
Pasuk Chaf Aleph, Pasuk Chaf.
Shavua Tov.
Also, Chaf.
Perikav Bays, Pasuk Chaf.
Shavua Tov.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey, Ellen.
So
Hello.
we have just concluded a terrible episode where Doeg, Edomi,
Where are we?
wipes out all the Kohanim in the city of Nov at the command of Shaul HaMelech.
What pasuk is it?
We're on Perikav Beis, Shmuel Aleph, Pasuk Chaf. Vayimaleit, and Pasuk Chaf, Vayimaleit ben Echad l'Achimelech ben Achituv. One son of Achimelech survived. Ushmo Evyatar, Vayivrach achrei David. He ran after David HaMelech. Vayaged Evyatar LeDavid ki harag Shaul et kohanei Hashem. Evyatar is the one who informs David HaMelech that Shaul had the Kohanim in the city of Novi, our Kohanim killed. Vayomer David leEvyatar, Yadati bayom hahu, Kisham Doeg ha'Edomi. Again, Doeg here is spelled Dalet Vav Yud Gimel for reasons we discussed last week, like Oivai, like he's he was that he's like trapped, like a dog, like a fish, or from the Lashon Vai, pain. Ki haged yagid l'Shaul, anochi saboti b'chol nefesh beit avicha. I'm afraid that it's going to be told also to Shaul that I'm running away. I'm from the house of Achimelech, who he tried to kill. And David HaMelech says, by the way, David says to Evyatar, it's a little bit my fault. I should have realized that Doeg, I knew that Doeg was there. I should have understood that maybe he's going to tell Shaul what happened, that I arrived in Nov. And that I should have been maybe more circumspect. So Pasuk Chav Gimel Shvai Yiti al Tira. David protects Evyatar. Ki kasher vakeshet nafshi vakeshet nafshecha. Just like Shaul is chasing after me, he's chasing after you. Ki mishmeret atay madin, you'll be safe with me. So in this, there is a chazal from Sanhedrin, Daf Tzadik Hey, based on the pasuk Vayimaleit ben Echad l'Achimelech ben Achituv. Amar Rav Yudam Rav, Ilmole nishtayr Evyatar l'Achimelech ben Achituv, lo nishtayr mizar shel David sarid palid. If it wasn't for the fact that this one remnant of Achimelech survived, no one would have survived from David HaMelech either. In some ways, it's viewed as David being somewhat responsible for the death of all these Kohanim, and that in life, his progeny should have been wiped out as well. And where do we see this? The Chsiv in Malachim Beis, Yud Aleph, God willing, we'll get there. The Atalia im Achizayahu, Ra'asa kimes b'na, Batakam batovad kol zer mamlacha, v'lo nishtayr Yoash el mishum dishtayr Evyatar. One of the battles, in one of the regicides that were going on, the killings of kings in the times of the Malchei David, there was an episode where there's an attempt to wipe out one of the Malchei Beis David, and the only one that survives is Yoash. So it gets to a point where there's only one remnant of David HaMelech, Yoash. All future descendants of David HaMelech come from Yoash. Similarly, Evyatar becomes the Kohen Gadol in the time of Shlomo HaMelech. And all the Kohanim Gedolim also come from Evyatar.
Didn't Hashem promise that all the future kings will come from David HaMelech, and Mashiach would come from David HaMelech? How could they be in such a situation where there was one survivor?
In fact, there was going to be no survivor. If it wasn't for David protecting Evyatar, Jewish history would take another route.
But David didn't really save Evyatar. He just remained. He wasn't.
No,
killed.
Evyatar chases after David. David protects David. David protects Evyatar. He tells him to stay with him, and just like Shaul HaMelech is chasing after him, he protects Evyatar from Shaul HaMelech as well. And there are Chazals also in that same, in the same Sanhedrin there. Armelo HaKadosh Baruch Hu David ad Masa Yeh Oven Zeh Tomun B'Yadecha Al Yadcha Ner of Nov Ir HaKohanim Al Yadcha Ner Gudoy V'Achitophel Al Yadcha Ner Gud Shol V'Shloishes Bonov. It's through David HaMelech that bad things happen to all these people. And so does that mean that an onesh that comes because of somebody, is he caught up in that onesh? Yeah. Mishaba onesh al yodo. Afshaluhu also davar legromis onesh kimo David sarich kapara. At least it requires a kapara in some way. And the Ishbitzer Hasidus has a whole mahalach this way, in terms of, if you are the cause of someone's punishment, it was destined for you to be there. You must have done something as well that deserved that. So, and the Noida Yehuda goes into a discussion between whether if somebody was sent as a shaliach to do something, whether you get the same kapor or not. But anyways, we see that it's viewed in some way. David HaMelech should have been more careful when he came to Novi Kohanim to recognize that there was a risk that Doeg could have caused what happened. But in the Medrash Shmuel, Al Chamesh Chatos Meis Shaul. The various, and one of them is the fact that he killed the Kohanim in the city of Nov. There were others, that he had mercy on Agag, that he later on he's going to ask from the Ovi Yudoni, and then he didn't do that correctly. But so it's clear though that this is also viewed that it's a sin of Dov as a sin of Shaul, but Me'idich Gisa writes the Iyayam, the David wrote this in Mizmor Nun Beis in Tehillim, that he felt a little responsible. Kol HaMizmor Yabad Lashon Harav Sheker Shediber Doeg Shegoram Larigas Kohanim Ha'ir. That David HaMelech tried to say that, at least in Tehillim, that some of the responsibility goes on Doeg as well. Okay. Let's continue. Now David is indeed being chased by Shaul, and this is going to be the theme over the next couple of prakim. How David escapes from the clutches of Shaul. Perchav Gimel. Vayagidu David lemor. Hine plishtim nilchamim b'ki'ilah. There was a city called Ki'ilah. It was in the city of Yehuda, but it was on the border by the Plishtim. Vehema shosim et agranot. The pasuk says that they're coming for grain, meaning it's not necessarily that they're coming to kill people, but they're coming for grain. So, and David is told about this, and David is going to feel a responsibility to go and save these people. We'll see why he has that feeling, but it says in Eruvin, Mem Hey, Amrit Amarav, Nachrim Shitzaru ala Yaros Yisrael, and Yoitzim Aleim B'Klei Zainin. On Shabbos, if Goyim come to attack a Jewish city, you don't carry weapons. Vein Machalin Alenas HaShabbos. Tanya Namahachi, Lamedvar Mamum Kishabalis Kemomo. That's if they're coming for looting. Aval Baal Iske Nefashos. But if they come because they want to kill people, so Yoitzim Aleim B'Klei Zainin, of course, then you can go out with weapons. Machalin Alenas HaShabbos. And then, uve'ira smucha l'sfar, afilu lo bo aliske nefashos el aliske tevin v'kash, yoitzna le'em b'chlei zayin. If you're dealing with a city that's on the border, then even if they're not coming for, even if they're only coming for monetary purposes, you're mechalal Shabbos. And Ke'ilah was a city that was was next to the border. So even though they only came on Iskei Tevin V'Kash, so David HaMelech is going to go and save them because it's a border town. Now, I'm going to read another Chazal that relates to this. This is an Dorish Rav Dustoy. My dechsiv, Vayagidu LeDavid Leimer Hinei Plishtim Lachamim B'Kila V'Ema Shosim Esagronos. It was a city connected to a border, because it says they came for the Gronis. Now the next pasuk Beis says, "Vayishal David b'Hashem lemor." David asked the Urim v'Tumim, "Ha'elech v'keti b'plishtim ha'eleh." Should I go and fight these plishtim? Vayomer Hashem el David, "Lech v'kita b'plishtim v'shatas ki'ilah." The Urim v'Tumim, through Hashem answers him through the Urim v'Tumim. Go and save Ke'ilah. I'm going to go back to the Gemara. My Kamaboile. What kind of question did he ask the Urim v'Tumim? Ilema ishari aser. Is this a shaila of iser veheter, like going to a rav to ask is the chicken kosher or not? Or, for example, is this permitted to do or not permitted to do on Shabbos? Harei Beis Dino shel Shmuel Aramosi Kayim. You have Shmuel and his Bezdin. It's a halachic question. What's he asking the Urim v'Tumim for? Rather, says the Gemara, El imatzlach ilo matzliach. He was asking, is he going to be successful or not? Dekanami. We can prove that because the answer that he was given in that pasuk was Lech v'kisa b'plishtim v'shatas ki'ilah. Go and save ki'ilah. Shema mino. Now, why is it that shilas of Isser veheter you don't ask the Urim v'Tumim? So the reason is we know the famous Gemara in Bava Metzia, Nun Tes, that there was a major debate between Rabbi Eliezer and the Chachamim about Tanur Achnoi, a certain oven, whether it's Tomei or not. And they went back and forth. Rabbi Eliezer said, if I'm right, let the walls come crashing in on us. And the walls started crashing in on us. Eventually, Yatza Baskol v'Amra, Malach HaMeitzel Rebbe Lezer Shaloch HaKamos B'chol Makom. A heavenly voice came out and said, why are you fighting with Rebbe Lezer? The halacha is like him. Omad Ro Yisrael Ragla v'Omar, Lo Bashamayim Hi. What does that mean? Amrav Yirmiyah Shekvar Nosna Torah Bar Sinai, in Anu Mashgichim Baskol Shekvar Kosafta Bar Sinai B'Tor Achrei Rabim Latois. The principle in the Torah is you go after a majority. Sanhedrin has 71 people. They make an election of 36 versus 35. The halacha is like the 36. So ain't shoalim b'dinei isser v'heter b'urim v'tumim, because that's an inyan of Shemayim. And we don't paskin halacha al pi shamayim, rather we paskin al pi das Sanhedrin. So that's a very interesting mahalach that we see in these psukim, this concept that regarding Isser v'Heter, you wouldn't ask the Urim v'Tumim. Only, for example, are we going to be successful? Vayomer Hashem says, Pasuk Gimel, Vayomer Anshe David Elav. Now, remember, David had 400 men with him. Hinei anachnu po b'Yehuda Yireim. Understand, we are being chased after by Shaul. We're afraid even here in Judea. Now we're going to put ourselves in danger with the Plishtim? It's like a kal vachomer. If we're afraid here, how much more are we going to be afraid there? By the way, David HaMelech feels like he has Mesiras Nefesh because even though he's not the Melech now, and the responsibility is on Shaul to protect the people, and even though David is in danger being chased after, he thought maybe he was closer to Keilah, so he could help them quicker. He also understood that because Shaul is mentally, has melancholia, he may not be able to do it. And he felt a personal responsibility to protect Klal Yisrael. It's one of the reasons why he was chosen to be David HaMelech.
Is Shaul given sort of like a pass because of the melancholy that he's not responsible to, like, to the end?
He's not given a pass. If he was psychotic, meaning if he was not in his senses, a shoteh, which is a person who is not does not have his faculties, he's not chayiv. Any Yisroim in the Torah, you're not chayiv. So, but yet we see Shaul HaMelech is punished for his actions. So he has melancholia, but he's not given a pass, certainly not halachically. Now, why didn't David HaMelech, why didn't the people believe the Urim v'Tumim? The Urim v'Tumim said, go and fight with them. Why didn't they believe him? So the Meforshim say, well, it wasn't a tzivui directly. He said they will be matzliach, but it wasn't really mamish a tzivui, a command to go. Now, these Urim v'Tumim, he didn't have Yasser HaKohen is going to show up later. What Urim v'Tumim did he have? So some say that the Gedolim at that time could create their own Urim v'Tumim. And you needed Ruach HaKodesh to put those letters together. Of course, David HaMelech had Ruach HaKodesh. He wrote Sefer Tehillim. And then in Breishis Rabbah, this Kal Vachomer says, Pasuk Zeh hu echad me'asor Kal Vachomer b'Tanach. There are 10 different Kal Vachomers. For example, Hein b'nei Yisrael lo shamu elai eich yishma'eni paro. Right? Moshe Rabbeinu gives a Kal Vachomer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If the Bnei Yisrael are not going to listen to me in terms of the Geula, how will Paro listen to me? And then, of course, when Miriam becomes a Mitzaras, if Vayomer Hashem el Moshe v'avia yarok b'faneh Kal Vachomer l'shkina yud daled yom. That means if we have to wait for 7 days for the Shekhinah, we would wait 14 days. And there are very other. And this is another Kal Vachomer that's mentioned in that list of the Kal Vachomers brought throughout Tanakh. Just for us to recognize that that's the case. So the people of David are not satisfied yet. So Pasuk Dalid, v'Yosef David lishol b'Hashem. So he asked the Urim v'Tumim again. Vayaneu Hashem, vayomer kum reid ki'ila, go down, ki ani noten et plishtim biadecha. This they believe. This finally his people believe. The second request. This was the second time, comes twice, so it's reason for them to believe. Vayelech David v'anashav Ke'ilah. So they go to Ke'ilah with David with his people. Vayilachem b'plishtim. They fight the plishtim. Vayinagid mikneim. Vayach bahem makah gdolah. They strike the plishtim a great blow. Vayosha David et Yoshvei Ke'ilah. He saves them. Pasuk Vav. Vahi bivrach Evyatar ben Achimelech el David Ke'ilah. Evyatar catches up with them in Ke'ilah. Ephod Yarad Biadon. He has the ephod with him. The ephod is the we said like the Rosh Hashivas wear a mantle. They wear this isn't the ephod because Evyatar is not the Kohen Gadol. The ephod is part of the breastplate that they would wear on the Shemona Begadim. But this is not necessarily that type of ephod.
I saw somewhere where it said that they learned this because it doesn't say ha-ephod, it just says ephod.
Doesn't say hi ephod, and Evyatar is not the Kohen Gadol at this time. And we had other times where David himself had an ephod with him to make his own Urim V'Tumim. As I said, the Meforshim explained that they were able to make their own. The Ramban says that not only the Kohen Gadol could wear an ephod, but all the Kohanim and all Gedolah Yisrael had ephodim. And there was an Urim V'Tumim attached there that they could ask. The Kohen Gadol had a special ephod. That's how the Ramban learns. Others, the Radak says he didn't even know he had the ephod with him. He had it among his other kelim. And it's important, this fact that Evyatar has come with the ephod is going to be relevant later on. Vayugadla Shaul kibad David Ke'ilah. So now Shaul hears that David saved the city of Ke'ilah. Vayomer Shaul nikar otel im yadi. You know, now I know where he is. Ki nizgar lavo be'ir dlatay muvriach. Ke'ilah is a city that has a wall and a gate. That's very good. He won't be able to escape me, and will be able to trap David in the city of Ke'ilah. Right? And that's what Rashi says. Yiftach bekach v'lo yochosh livroch mimeni, he won't be able to escape. Vayishama Shaul kol ha'am lemilchama. So he gets his people ready for battle. Laredet Ke'ilah latzrol David ve'lanashav, to lay siege on Ke'ilah. Vayeda David ki alav shol machrish hara, and David hears about it. Vayomer leVyatar kohen agisha ephod. David HaMelech knows that Evyatar has brought an ephod. He says, bring the ephod close. Pasuk Yud. Vayomer David, Hashem Elokei Yisrael, Shamoa Shamav Decha ki mevakesh Shaul avo Ke'ilah. I heard that Shaul wants to come to Ke'ilah, l'shachet la'ir bavri, to destroy the city. And then he asked the question, Hayezgireni balei Ke'ilah v'yado? Are the people of Ke'ilah gonna trap me there? That's question number one. Number two, Hayered Shaul? Is Shaul even gonna come down to attack us? Kasher Shama Avdecha, the way I heard Hashem Elokei Yisrael, Haged Na'al Avdecha. Says Rashi, L'madnu mikan shashol shnei dvarim ein mashivin lo ela echad. There's a certain rule how to work with the Urim V'Tumim. Number one, you can only ask one question at a time. And David asked two. He's only going to be answered one. And if you ask two, ein mashivin lo ela rishon, he's only going to ask you on the first. He's only going to answer you on the first one. V'kan David shol shelo keseder. Not only that, this is the Gemara in Yuman Ayin Gimel. David didn't ask the right order. He should first ask, is Shaul coming down? Right? And then and then ask, are they going to trap me? Are they going to go along with Shaul's plans to trap me in the city. Some say that when it says the Diber David el Hashem, it's Lashon Tefillah, that it wasn't Derech the Urim V'Tumim, but he davened through Ruach HaKodesh. Well then, what was the point then, later on when he asks Evyatar, bring forth the ephod? And not only that, from this whole dialogue, like we saw, Chazal learn various issues of how you ask the Urim V'Tumim. That's very clear then that he actually used the Urim V'Tumim, not that he just davened for it. He was in doubt whether the people of Keilah would give him to Shaul or not, and that's why he asked the Urim V'Tumim. But let's see how he's answered by the pasuk. So first of all, the pasuk says, "Vayomer Hashem Yered." Hashem only answers him regarding the question, Shaul is going to come down. Vayomer David, Hayizgeru Balei Keilah Oti Vetan Hashem Biad Shaul. So then he asked the question once, are the Balei Keilah going to trap me? Vayomer Hashem Yazgiru. And he's answered that the Balei Keilah are going to trap him and are going to give him up to Shaul. Now, let's talk about, are you allowed to give up a Jew to save a whole city? L'chora, that's what's going to happen. Meaning, the people of Keilah heard about what happened to Navi Kohanim. If Shaul's going to come and present himself and say, give me David HaMelech, do they have a right to give up a Jew to save the city? So that is a discussion in the Yerushalmi in Masechta Trumas. Tani, Siyus Bnei Adam, Shayu Malchim B'derech. You have a caravan that's traveling, Pagul and Goyim, and enemies Goyim come, V'amru Tnulanu Echad Mikem, V'narogoto, give us one of your Jews and we'll kill him. V'imlav Hareani Anu Horgim et Kulchem. If you don't give him to us, we will kill all of you. Afilu kulan nerogin lo yimsru nefesh achas misrael. They are not allowed to give up a Jewish person, even if all of them are going to get killed. Now, they didn't specify a certain person. They said, you have to choose and give somebody up. You're not allowed to do that. However, the Gemara continues. Yichdu lahen echad kigon Sheva ben Bichri. Later on, there's a story about Sheva ben Bichri that is asked to be given up. If the Goyim specify a certain person, Yimseru Otova al Yaharog, then you're allowed to give that person up and they don't have to be killed. However, Amresh Lakish, V'hu Shechayv Misa K'Sheva ben Bichri, you just can't give up an innocent person. Sheva ben Bichri was Chayv Misa. So somebody who's Chayv Misa, according to Jewish law, you'd be able to give up. Comes Rav Yochanan, Afal Pi she'eno Chayv Misa K'Sheva ben Bichri. Rav Yochanan argues and says if the Goyim come and have a specific person in name, even though he's not Chayv Misa, you're allowed to give him up. How does the Rambam paskin in Yesodei HaTorah? V'cheinim amru lahem odei kechavim. Tnulanu echad mikem v'naragnu v'imlav narog kulchem. If they don't specify a person, they say to a city, you give us a Jew, otherwise we're going to kill all of you. Yaragu kulam v'yimsru lehem nefesh achas misrael. You have to, the whole city has to be killed. You can't give up a Jew. V'im yachdu lehem v'armu tnulanu ploini. Give us a certain person, on naroget kulchem. So the Rambam says, "Imayim achuyev misa k'sheva ben bichri yutnu oso lahem." If that person was chayv misa, then you can give him. He says, "Vein moilain ken lechatchila v'imeno chayv misa." If that person is not chayv misa, yarogu kulan vayimsru lehem nefesh achas misrael. He passes like Reish Lakish that it's usher to be moister somebody, even if the Goyim identified somebody directly, unless he's Chayv Misa. Now, David HaMelech was not Chayv Misa here. even though maybe Shaul HaMelech thought he was a Moed b'Malchus. That wasn't true. But the Bnei Ke'ilah would think that since Shaul is Melech, and he's demanding to kill David, that they would think that David is Chayv Misa. And therefore would be mutter for them to give him up. Even according to Shittas Reish Lakish, according to both Reish Lakish and all the opinions, certainly Rav Yochanan, who said you can give up any Jew. But even according to Reish Lakish, the way we pasuk in the Rambam, if they thought that David HaMelech was Chayv Misa, they would be allowed to give him up. So it's a very interesting sugya here. So Pasuk Yud Gimel, Vayakam David Vanashav Keshesh Mosish. Now he's got 200 more people with him, 600. And Vayitzu Mikila, based on the information they got from the Urim V'Tumim, they run away from Kila. Vaytalchu Bashrei Talchu. They started going into the desert. Ulesholu Gad Kinimlat David Mikila Vaychdal Etzed. Shaul hears that David ran away, so therefore Shaul does not mount an expedition to Ke'ilah. Pasuk Yudalit. Vayeshev David b'midbar b'mitzadot. David dwelled in strongholds. Vayeshev bahar b'midbar Zif, in a desert called Zif. Vayekshu Shaul kol hayamim v'lo natano l'im biyado. Shaul is out looking for him, and he's not being David is not falling into the hands of Shaul. Vayar David. David sees very clearly that it's very serious. Shaul is trying to kill him. What's special now from the previous times? So the Radak says that he's concerned because he heard that the Zifim are going to maser him up to Shaul HaMelech. And that this and the Kliyakar says he sees Mamish, the sin of Gdoil of Shaul, how he's not stopping chasing after him. And the Das Soifrim says he saw this Baruch HaKodesh, and that's why he began to hide himself even more than before, because we're going to see they're going to begin to hide themselves. Pasuk Tezayim. Let me just see further. Yeah. Pasuk Tezayim. Vayakam Yonasan ben Shaul. Vayelech el David Chorsha. Yonasan, David's best friend, hears that David is hanging out in Chorsha, and he comes to visit him. Vaychazek et yado belokim. And Rashi says, Chidesh bris shebeneim. He renews the covenant between them. Vayomer elav al tira. Yonasan says to David, don't be afraid. Ki lo timtzach yad Shaul avi. My father will not find you. And listen to this. Ve'ata timlocha Yisrael. You will rule over Israel. Ve'anochi eyelecha lemishneh. I'll be to you. We'll see what Mishnah means, but like second in command. V'gam Shaul avi yodea king. And even Shaul, my father, knows this. So he gives him divrei chizuk. And says in Baba Metzia Daf Pei Hey, when it says Vatatim Loch Amar Rebbe, Shloisha Anvisanhein, there were three very modest Jews. Eluhain, Abba, that means Rebbe's father, Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, Ubnei Beseira, the Yonasan ben Shaul. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel had the Amora, because Reb Shimon ben Gamliel had said, the Amar Rebbe Bno, Reb Shimon had said to his son Rebbe, Shehurak Ari ben Shual, he was a lion, the son of a fox. The Chaver Reb Lezer Reb Shimon, who Ari ben Ari. So Reb Shimon Gamliel treated himself very modestly. Who were the Bnei Beseira? The Amar Marshiv was Hillel Baroshu Minula Nosi Aleyan. We won't go into the story, but Hillel Abavli came to Eretz Yisrael from Bavel. He was very poor. He was lying up on the skylight. And it snowed in the morning because he couldn't pay. It cost money to go into yeshiva. So he was listening from the skylight and it snowed on him. The next morning they saw a shadow. Who is this? It's Hillel. They brought him down. And there was a big debate. How do you do the Korban Pesach when Erev Pesach falls on Shabbos? And Hillel knew all the halacha. The Bnei Beseira were the leaders of that generation. Immediately, when they heard Hillel, they gave up the Nesius and they gave it to Hillel. So the Bnei Beseira are praised for their modesty. And now who's the third? Yonasan ben Shaul. The Carmelei David v'atatim lochal Yisrael v'aniyeh lechal Mishnah. Even though Yonasan is the son of Shaul HaMelech, he is Mavater and he gives it up for David HaMelech. And I'll be second to you. Sometimes Mishnah, example, a few weeks ago we had the Kesef Mishnah, Kechu biyadchem. Yosef gives them double many. Yesh Mishnah shu kofel. It's double. You're going to say Kesef Mishnah. And then Mishnah sometimes means Sheni Lagadol. Like when we say Mishnah Torah, which was learned in Arvis Moya, which is sort of secondary to the Torah. And here, the Pshat, he would be Mishnah Lamelech. Now, you can ask me, how could he be part of the Malchus? The Malchus is given to Beis David and to Shevet Yehuda. But we already learned this, that if Shaul had not sinned when Shmuel came and brought the Korban, and then Shmuel told him, I'm taking away the Malchus from you, the Ramban already explained that if Shaul had not sinned, he would have had a shaykhus in Malchus Yisrael, not all of them. For example, maybe just on Binyamin, who was the son of Rachel. Maybe Binyamin and Ephraim and Menashe. Because Yehuda and Ephraim are considered like two different nations. Or he would be a Melech under Melech Yehuda. So this fits into the Ramban scheme of why Yonasan might have been a Mishnah Lamelech if he would have survived. Pasuk Yud Ches, Vayichlesu shneim bris lifnei Hashem. So they re-energized their covenant. Vayesh David b'chorsha v'Yonasan alach lebeso. Yonasan goes home. Pasuk Yud Tes, Vayalu zifim el Shaul hagivasa lemor. Shaul lives in Giva. The people of Ziph, where David is hanging out, come to Shaul, and they say to him, "Alo David mistater imanu b'mtzadas b'chorsha." David is hiding out in these places, in these strongholds in Chorsha, Begivat HaChakila, Asher miyamina yishimon. Pasuk Chav, V'ata l'chol avat nafshecha melech, Laredet rei, come down, V'lanu yasgir b'yad, and we will trap him. Vayomer Shaul bruchim atem l'Hashem, ki chamaltem alai. He praises them that you are now helping me. Nobody has ever helped me before, now you're helping me. I want to say something from Rabbi Schwab, who says something very powerful here. Remember, the Zifim think that they are helping Shaul. Shaul is the king, and they're doing it l'shem shamayim. However, a person always has to tzarech tamid leisim alibo marotza shamayim bizeh. You have to think, what outcome does shamayim want? The Khan, hayesh isr lahalshin v'limsor. There's an isr to be malshin on somebody else and to be maser somebody else. There's no reason for them to do so. Achem chashvu she'osim mitzvah l'siyur l'koved hamelech. They thought they were doing a mitzvah. They're helping the king. Aval lo chashvu ma'u ratzon Hashem bazeh. They were doing it l'shem shamayim, but they didn't think, what does shamayim want? L'chein matzinu harbe, says Rav Schwab. Kishadam oseh davar b'itlavut l'shem shamayim. A person's very excited. He's doing something L'Shem Shamayim. Shocheach, mahu rotzon Hashem bazeh. What really does Hashem want? Is it truly L'Shem Shamayim? You always have to have that thought. Pasuk Chav Beis. L'chuna kinu od. So go. Go check where he is. Mira'u sham usam. Where? Ki amar elai arom yarimu. He tells the Zifim, David is a trickster. He has ways of deception. And go and put out your spies and figure out where he is. Find out all the hiding places. And return to me. Then I will come. If he's there, I'm going to search out the whole region of Judea. So the Zifim went out and followed Shaul's direction to find David. David vanosha b'midbar ma'on baraval yemina yishimon. And he's in the desert, in a certain place. Vayelech Shaul vanashav l'vakesh. And now Shaul thinks he has David HaMelech trapped. Vagidu David. Vayered asela. He goes down to this rock. Vayeshev midbar ma'on vayishma Shaul vaydoch achrei David midbar ma'on. And he runs after him to that particular place. By the way, Kapitel Yud Aleph Tehillim is this period of time where David thinks he's trapped in front of Shaul, and the various those Tehillims are during that period of time. Pasuk Chavav. Vayelech Shaul mitzad har mizeh, v'David v'anashav mitzad har mizeh. Is a valley in between them. Shaul is on one mountain with his people, and David's on another mountain with the other people. But in a sense, he's surrounded. Vayi David nechpaz. He's trapped. Lalechat b'nei Shaul. V'Shaul v'anashav otrim. The word atara, like a crown. El David v'anashav l'tafsam. David HaMelech is trapped and is going to be captured by Shaul. We know in Kapitel Tehillim Kuf Tet Zayin, Ani amarti b'chavzi kol adam kozev. That has to do with this pasuk. He's nechpaz, he's trapped. That I said when I was trapped that all people are liars. What's pshat? This is the Yalkut Shimoni. Kivin shura David atzmo mitzumtzam biad Shaul v'nashav. When David saw he was trapped, Omar al chinam mashachoti Shmuel. Shmuel anointed me to be king, but it's worth nothing. The Omar li ki meshach Hashem limloch. He also told me that Hashem wants me to be the king. Heichan hi otav tacha she'omar li. Where is this promise that was made to me? I'm now going to be killed. Minayin shekach Omar. Where do we see that David said that? Shenema ani amarti b'chavzi. I said when I was trapped, kol adam kozev. Everyone is somebody who tells sheker. Afilu Shmuel. Heichan hi avtacha she'amar li. Amar lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ani meid alav sheneman Shmuel. No, I give testimony that Shmuel is trustworthy. Shenemar vayeda kol Yisrael midan vad Beersheva. Ki Neman Shmuel Navi Lashem. Shmuel is Neman. Ve'ata karat l'Shmuel kozev miyad umalach bal Shaul leimor meheira ulacha ki pashtu plishtim al haaretz. Let's look at the next pasuk. Umalach bal Shaul leimor meheira v'lecha ki pashtu plishtim al haaretz. Immediately, a messenger came to tell Shaul, the Plishtim have attacked. Quickly, Vayashav Shaul merdof achrei David. Shaul decides not to trap David, but Vayelech likrat Plishtim. Al kain karu lo makom ahu sela hamachloket. So Rashi says Malach Mamish K'dei Latzilas David, that it was a Malach Hashem. Other learn it's a regular shaliach. And why is this called Selah Machlokes? Because there was a debate, says Rashi. Sha'aya libo shel shol cholok l'shtei deos. Ezer tova. What's my better move? Im lashuv latzil et artzom yad plishtim. Should I do my kingly duty and save Chaisar from the plishtim, or lirdo falit poses David? And that's how Targum Yonason explains why Selah Machlokes is called Selah Machlokes, because of this internal debate, not just with Shaul, but Shaul's people. They said after all of this struggle that you had with this rebellious David, now's the time to take care of him. So I want to read the Musar Nevi'im on what we just read. Lamanta Omer Sheshliach Chaya, that it was not a Malach Hashem, but a regular Shaliach. Efshar Mizel Lirot et Godel Rucho Shel Shaul. We still see flickering in Shaul's breast is the neshama of a Gibor. Shegam B'Shah She'oivav Kimat Nafal Biado. Even though his ultimate enemy David is about to fall in his hands, as Mikevan Sha'arnu Lo She'Plishtim Nechamim B'Yisrael, he's told that the Plishtim are threatening Jews. Azav et David vet Machaneu ubatel et kol inanav anogim lo la'atzmo v'yitzei lemilchama likrat ha'Plishtim. So again, we have this up and down with Shaul. Up and down with Shaul. Shaul shows us glimpses of greatness. And this thing about the Yalkut Shimoni also has on the Selah Machlokes. It was Shaul's generals and officers that were debating. Listen, some of them would say, until Ben Ishai is in our hands and we've killed him, we shouldn't turn away from that. And Ben Ishai Matzui Etzleinu B'chol Shana, we can find David Melech whenever. Davar Acher Ma'u Selah Machlokes, Sheb'shah Shaya David v'chelo Ovrim, Archecher Haloto Mokom. Whenever David and his people would pass by this place, Hayam Mitchalek Mechayotav Hu v'Sheish Shmot Harishonim Shayu Imo. Ba'ot Shai Yordim Me'al Susei Mishtachim Noflim Apneim U'Mevarchim Baruch Sha'Salanu Nisim B'Makom Hazeh. That the machlokas was, some people were with him when this nace occurred, because it's mamish a nace that Hashem saved David HaMelech there, and some were not there with him, so they couldn't say the brachas on nace with them. And that's the various multiple pshatim in why it was called Selah HaMachlokas. Comments? Let's start. Pasuk Chav. Let's start Perek Chav Daled.
I just wanted to say, as I was reading Kapitel Yud Aleph, David uses a beautiful metaphor that Nuri Harchem Sipor. It's like he's it's like a bird flying over. It evokes like a very special feeling. You realize how much poetry there is in Tehillim.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I've been mentioning as we go along the various kapitlach that the Meforshim tell us relate to certain of these stories, because I think we will read these kapitlach Tehillim differently, understanding better, what spiritual matzav David HaMelech was in. I think we'll understand and relate to the kapitel better as we go along, as we've been doing that. So Perek Kaf Daled, Vayal David Misham Vayeshev Tzadot Ein Gedi. Well, many of us have been to Ein Gedi. We know where that is.
Mhm.
Beautiful springs there. It's not far from Masada. Vayikasher Shav Shol Machrei Plishtim. And after Shaul battles with the Plishtim, Yagidu Lo Lemor, Hinei David b'Midbar Ein Gedi. And Shaul is told again that David is in Gedi. Vayikach Shaul 3,000 ish bachur mikol Yisrael. Now he comes with a serious army, 3,000 soldiers. Vayelech levakesh et David vanashav apnei tzurei haye'elim. Ye'el is like one of those mountain goats that live in the high rocky area. Pasuk Daled. Vayavol gidrot hatzon al haderech v'sham ma'ara. They go into a cave. Vayavo Shaul la'asech et raglav. Shaul goes into the cave for purposes of bathroom needs. Rashi says, "Lipanos l'nekavim gdolim." We would say number 2. Radak says, "Lashtin mayim," to urinate. The Yonason, Targum Yonason says, like Rashi learns. And the Radak explains, Ze haklal haya b'mikdash, kol ha-mesich et raglav taun tvila. If you were going to do whatever mesich et raglav is, you need to go to the mikveh. L'chein hamatil mayim ton kiddush yadayim raglayim. Urinating only required washing your hands, lu derech kavod. So that's how the Radak explains why there's a difference between la'asech es raglav, the way Rashi learns. Listen to the way Chazal in Brachas Samech Beis learns why, when you had a bowel movement, it uses the word lahasech. Amar Rabbi Elazar melamed she'asa atzmo kesuka. Klomar, mitoch tzniut gdola shayta bo, Shaul HaMelech had a lot of tznius. Hayam esachek atzmo be'et hayitziyah. When he went to the bathroom, he sort of surrounded himself with sheets. Shelo yireh psaro arom, none of his nakedness would be seen. So again, tremendous tznius, tremendous mila of David HaMelech, of Shaul HaMelech. Then David v'anashav b'yarksem ha'yoshvim. You have to understand what's going on here. Shaul HaMelech enters the cave from one side. David and his people are in the cave with him, and they see Shaul. Immediately, pasuk hey, vayamru anshe David elav, hinei hayom asher amar Hashem elecha. This is the day Hashem was making for you. Hinei anochi noten et oivecha biyadecha. Hashem is giving your enemy into your hands. Vasita lo, you can do to him kasher yita beinecha, and all of your troubles can end. What does David do? Vayakam David vayichrot et knafa me'il asher l'Shaul balad. He takes a knife and he cuts a little corner off of Shaul HaMelech's garment. So there is in Bracha Samech Beis, which I quoted already, Amar Rabbi Elazar, Amar lo David l'Shaul. Eventually, David is going to have a conversation with Shaul. Minat Torah ben arigata. Technically, halachically, I could kill you. Sha'arei rodefata. You're chasing after me to kill me. V'atorah amra bo laharcha hashkem lahargo. Somebody who comes to kill you, you're allowed to kill him. El tznius. It's your tznius that saved you. What's this? It's the fact that Shaul didn't want to go to the bathroom just outside, but rather he went into the cave. So the tznius saved him. And it says, nobody ever saw his heel or his big toe. That's how careful they were regarding tznius. So despite everything, Shaul HaMelech is a great tzaddik. Not only that, because of this act of David, it says in Brachos Daf Samach Beis, On Rabbi Yossi Rab Chanina, Kol Mavazas Abgadim, Sof Eino Nene Mehem. If a person doesn't treat his garments or garments properly, he's going to come that he doesn't benefit from garments. Shenamar, we all know the Haftorah that we learned today, Parshas Vaychi. Melachim Aleph Aleph. V'amelech David Zakein, ba bayamim. Vaychaseu babgadim, v'lo yecham lo. David HaMelech, when he got old, he couldn't get warm. His garments couldn't heat him up. So they had to find Avishag Shunami to warm him up. But it all stems from this act. Even though David HaMelech saves Shaul, you see again how the tzaddikim, everything they do on their levels comes back to haunt them. So I wanted to begin the story, and this is going to be the big reconciliation, at least on the surface, between David HaMelech and Shaul HaMelech that continues in Perek Havdalid, which we will continue Mirza Hashem next week. Any comments, questions, ha'aros? I wish everybody a good week.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Ernie.
Yeah.
Where was that quote about Shaul's modesty about not seeing his big toe? Where was that from?
1 second.
Something
Yeah,
like that?
yeah. Hang on. Let me. Oh, I leaned it from here. I had my. Hang on.
Today.
Is in the Kreskidos. Yeah, I just read it. I'm going to give Suzanne the source. It's from the Yerushalmi, Masechta Sukkah, Daf Hey, and also Sanhedrin, Yerushalmi, Sanhedrin, Daf Beis.
Thank you, both in your.
By the way, if you have the Mikros Gedolos, if you have the Mikros Gedolos with the Radak and the Ralbag, and it says Likutei Shas uMedrash Tanoim, it's in that section.
Okay, great.
On the pasuk of Vayavo El Gidrot Hatzon Al Aderech V'Shamara. I would highly recommend this Mikros Gedolos. It's the Maduras Zucker. Kolo Perushim Chadoshim Gamish. It's a regular Mikros Gedolos, but has wonderful Likutei Shasu Midrashei Tanoim. A lot of the Roshim that I
It's
quote
gorgeous. Yeah, it's
comes
beautiful.
from there. Right?
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Have a great week, everybody.
Thank you. Thank